Hello, my name is Margaret Adele, and welcome to another indie book review. We're back with another queer memoir. Today, I am reviewing Becoming Shameless by Eden Simchah. This is an autobiography detailing the author's life with a narcissistic parent and the abuse that she suffered underneath that person, and also coming to grips with lesbianism and a couple other fairly dark topics. There are a decent amount of trigger warnings for this book: narcissistic abuse, general child abuse, homophobia, sexual assault, eating disorder. Is that all of them? Pretty sure overall. But the strange part is that despite all of these very dark topics, the writing style was very light and flowy. At certain points, when the author is talking about her life very young, the writing style is very simplistic and childlike to mirror what her actual thought processes would have been like at that time, and I really appreciated that. And then it more or less matured as the book went on. I think there were a couple points where the growth and maturity of the writing tone didn't necessarily keep pace with the ages that it was supposed to be representing, but more or less it tracks, and it didn't detract at all. So I also kind of caught myself getting caught up in it. I had originally started a half-hour timer on my little Grow a Tree Focus app, and I'd intended to stop to take notes, but then I just kept going because it just kept flowing, and ended up reading it all in one sitting. So it was quite notable that despite the very dark topics, something about the tone was very light, and maybe that helps a little bit. It does not go very in depth into any one of the very dark topics, save for one, the narcissistic abuse, and two, various homophobia struggles over time. Now, the way that the style was set up, it was less telling you the effects of the narcissistic abuse and more showing you, which was impressive considering this is a nonfiction autobiography. But as opposed to saying, I felt this way because my mother was doing this narcissistic thing, it reframes it as how she would have felt or how she would have viewed herself because of the abuse. For example, things like, I wish I wasn't lazy so mom wouldn't have to say those horrible things to me, type of thing, which had the side effect of being like low-key aggravating because you want to like reach into the book and be like, no, it's not your fault. But that's kind of the point of it. And there were people throughout her life that said, hey, maybe the way your mom speaks to you isn't great, actually. And it doesn't come to the happy ending a lot of people would probably hope for, because it comes to a more or less no contact, or at least very little contact ending, which isn't the ultimate happy ending that anyone would actually want, but it is a healthier option than staying in that toxic relationship. But that was the kind of biggest theme, I think. The other things that were discussed were, she talked about how her father was very obviously, to her looking back, some level of queer, how he desperately wanted to dress in more feminine clothing, and mentioned, oh, boys don't get to wear the cute stuff type of rhetoric from a young age, and basically got caught up in essentially alt-right communities just to have community because of religious stuff. And that stuff isn't talked about in detail. Like, even when she mentions going to a dinner with her father and someone goes into a homophobic tirade, you don't actually get the word for word of what they said. Like I mentioned before, despite the dark topics in general, the writing style is light enough that it doesn't jump into it. There is talk about sexual assault by a romantic partner, but again, nothing graphic, or at least too graphic, and nothing overt. So that's not to say like, oh, it's totally fine, you can totally skip over it, but like, if you're that kind of person that you're like, I can get through it, if it's not too deep, you can probably get through it. And despite the only ending on a no contact, not with a reconciliation, not with a genuine change of behavior on the behalf of the abuser, the ending does feel very hopeful. It was fun to watch the queer awakening because It felt kind of familiar, where you're like, no, I just like hardcore connect with this very queer media, but like I'm totally still straight. Like, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Like, I didn't see myself in this. What are you talking about? That was very indicative. And finding yourself really connecting with these online queer communities, just really feeling connected. But you know what? I'm just the straight person here. It's fine. How many of us, how many thought we were like the token straight of a queer group for so long? Yeah, it brought back a lot of memories in that aspect. But in general, there was talk about the eating disorders, binge eating specifically, which was interesting because I've actually read another indie memoir that was about binge eating, so I knew a little bit about it, but it wasn't brought up too much here, just a couple mentions of it being an issue, and it not going away, but lessening greatly when she came out as a lesbian and when she kind of understood herself better and was in a healthier place in her family life, got more used to it. So that was very interesting, and I liked the overall hopeful ending. There was a catharsis, I suffered all of this, but I came out the other side, and you can too. And the author in the author's notes even flat out says, like, I hope this helps people who are, going through a queer awakening or are victims of abuse or are just struggling with self-doubt, like all that kind of stuff. There are some mentions of basically trying to find out what she wanted to do for a living because she generally nothing stuck out to her. And I liked that aspect as well, and that there wasn't one giant epiphany, aha, I shall tend my entire life to this thing. And in general, I really liked how hopeful it is. How many times have I said in general now? Regardless, I gave it 5 stars. Again, probably could still be read even by someone that was struggling with any one of these things because nothing is graphic or overt. And it's very hopeful overall. It's very focused on moving forward and becoming healthier. And I do hope down the line that the author can have an actual reconciliation with her mother and actually heal things there. But that's never a given. That's never a guarantee. And that's never something that should be forced on anyone. So in general, highly recommend it if you are queer, dealing with self-doubt, not knowing what you're going to do with your future, suffering from abuse, like all of that kind of stuff. It is helpful in that it is hopeful, and I definitely think you should pick this one up. And with nothing else to say, I hope you have a wonderful day and a marvelous tomorrow.